6 out of 10 Republicans recommend FTR Radio to everyone they know. The other 4 are rhinos. FTR Radio, online at FTRradio.com. FTR Radio salutes some of the great Democrat presidents in the radio era. FTR Radio.
You're listening to Liz and Taylor.
Alright, so why can't I get another tattoo? Come on.
Because you get another tattoo, then you start talking another guy.
But not the movie star, the battling duo from the right war on FTR Radio.
Oh, come on.
You're the one who said it.
That was a joke. Partially.
Enlist in the right war. Won't cost you nothing. Not as good as military service, but it's got to count for something, right?
Good evening, folks. You're listening to FTR Radio. I'm Liz Harrison. This is The Right War. And yeah, I've got Taylor here. And I have to chain him up because, you know, he might start fighting with Stephen Miller or something.
Wait, I thought I was going to start fighting with you, or you were going to start fighting with me for, you know, suggesting a T1 line.
Yeah. Help, Stephen.
How are you raging Islamophobes doing tonight?
I am feeling extremely extreme. I was reading Zero Hedge's list of 70-some reasons why you would be considered an extremist by this administration, and I am happy to say I fit in the vast majority of them.
Wait, I haven't read these. I gotta look at this.
Yeah, you get to find the list. I don't have it up on this computer because I have all the sound stuff up. So we'll let Taylor look this up. But yeah, Zero Hedge came up with the list. I think Dana was alluding to it today on her show.
It'd be Dana Lash.
Yeah, Dana Lash. Is there any other Dana? I mean, Dana Perino is not on radio, is she?
Only Zool.
I can't find it.
Oh, good God. Look up U.S. government extremist list, and it should pop up. At least that's how I found it when I went on Google and I found Zero
Helps if I spell extremist right.
That would be useful. Although Google does spell check.
All right, here, yeah.
It starts with a T.
Yes.
Ends with an R.
All right. Here, let's start this, okay? We're going to go through just some of these, all right? Just some of these. The first one, those that talk about individual liberties.
Well, that would be all of us.
Well, yeah, I mean, that would even be the people who support gay marriage would be considered extremists.
Yeah, that's true.
Those that advocate for states' rights. Those that want to make the world a better place. Again, you're including some leftists there. Those that are interested in defeating the communists. Okay.
I don't want to defeat Dom because he's too amusing.
Anyone who holds a political ideology that considers the state to be unnecessary, harmful, or undesirable.
Hey, anarchists!
Is this what was in the Department of Homeland Security manual that Napolitano put together? Is that what this is, or was this just
this is a compilation of various documents in various places throughout our government. They are linked to their original sources.
Yeah.
But yeah, the folks at the hamster wheels over Zero Hedge were going madly wowed.
Number 23, anyone with a MySpace page.
No, actually, number 23 is that anyone that is tagged in conspiracy theorizing.
That's not me.
Let's see. Those that refer to an army of God. There actually is an extremist group called the Army of God, but anyway.
Number 47, Joe Biden.
Actually, number 47 is those that are reverent to individual liberty.
Okay.
Number 46, those that are suspicious of centralized federal authority.
That would be Michelle.
Well,
I am too, but...
I'm reading The Road to Serfdom right now, so you know I'm on this list like 12 times.
I'm probably on it more than you. That's the scary part.
Those that talk about the New World Order in a derogatory manner.
I do. But only from the standpoint that, I'm tired of the NWO protest BS, so I don't know. Does that make me really against NWO?
Okay. I don't understand. I'll read 55, 56, and 57 at the same time, okay?
Okay.
Anyone that is anti-abortion, anyone that is anti-Catholic, anyone that is anti-nuclear.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what's even crazier? Number 68 is anyone who can read any three of these rules simultaneously.
Yeah. Well, I said
Thank
I was
you.
on the list. Oh, and 75 is anyone who got to meet John Romita Jr. at a writing camp. And number 76 is anyone who knows Chuck Dixon. So, Stephen, you and I are screwed.
Yeah, but
wait, what numbers were they again?
My writings have probably been flagged since junior high school. I was a kid, I'm the kid that drew nuclear explosions coming off of my phonics pages instead of actually doing it. So I'm not. I have no qualms about that.
No. What is the what was the list there?
75 and 76.
75 and 76. So 77 must be anyone that engages in colorful artistic communications with Nathan Edmondson. Don't ask.
I'm with Nathan No, anybody who likes comic books, I think, is just on that list. Comic books depicting action sequences.
Okay, that works.
Yeah.
But the whole Nathan Edmondson thing, I think, falls under the... I don't know. Didn't they have something in there that was anti-art and anti... well... There's no nice way to put it, sex. Because somehow it always degenerates to how much chocolate does it take for the Pinterest pictures that... never mind.
Right.
See, I do engage in communications that have absolutely nothing to do with politics. Unfortunately, they typically degenerate to something that has to do with literature, sex, and smut.
That's number 28.
Yeah. Good night, everybody.
And see, poor Taylor is upset because he doesn't get into those conversations with me.
Those that are opposed to the collection of federal income taxes. Those that supported former presidential candidates Ron Paul, Chuck Baldwin, and Bob Barr.
I can't believe they actually named them out. Although I have repeatedly said, Paulites scare me. So I might sort of kind of agree with that one.
I'm not going to argue with that last one.
Neither am I. Oh my. This is why I said, people who are all up for Rand Paul, I'm like, you keep forgetting his dad. Just saying. I mean, you want to crucify Jeb for his brother and his dad, but you're going to ignore Rand's dad. Really?
I don't think anyone's ignoring it, but if crazy family members are fair game, well, I'm perfectly okay going, having Hillary explain the lifestyle of her island jet-setting, underage hooker-toting party boy husband. I'm totally okay with that.
This is true.
No. You're just a racist, Stephen. Haven't you figured that out? You're a racist because Bill Clinton was the first black president that we had. Remember?
Well, he's in good company because he's with Brigitte Bardot. Yeah.
I want to be with Brigitte Bardot.
Yeah, he's in with her. The icon that brought us the bikini. Because she just ended up having to pay a fine over in France for speaking against, wait for it, Islam. Yep. Well, actually, she wrote against it in a quarterly newsletter of her animal rights organization thing that she has going on over there. So, yeah.
Oh, by the way, before we go even farther, Liz, can you play the kid?
Yes, I can.
Please. Please.
We'll be right back after the kid goes and make sure the tailor doesn't get into any legal trouble or something.
This is the Pint-Sized Pundit, and I'm here to tell you that anything Taylor says on the right war is his opinion and his opinion only. He does not speak for his employees, his employers, employer, or anyone else. He especially does not speak for my mom unless she says so.
Okay, kid has spoken.
Alright. So anyway, as we were saying...
Now see, I'm depressed because Stephen Miller did not get all excited about the fact that I said he was in it with Brigitte Bardot. I thought that would be like a major hard-on type thing.
It's hard to get excited about Brigitte Bardot being more brave than any of our network media. That's kind of depressing.
No, I was saying that you were in the same company with her.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
You know what I thought was really interesting from this was the discussion that there was, and Reason Magazine discussed this, a couple of other people discussed it, about the fact that all these basically anti-free speech laws that they have in France. I mean, people forget Charlie Hebdo got sued by a couple of imams for some of their Muhammad cartoons.
Yeah. Yeah, this is nothing new. And the whole Bardot case shows it even more. But that was a fine, not a lawsuit. She was fined by the government. So that's a little bit different than getting sued by someone and having them win an award. No. So I'm sitting here thinking, maybe Charlie Hebdo should be gearing up to have her on the cover. Think, artists. You know? That might be a good cover, folks.
Did anybody finally realize that if you turned the Charlie Hebdo cover upside down, you basically saw a big dick?
Morning Spew had it. They took the
I told you about
features
it.
Off.
I didn't have to turn it I didn't have to turn it upside down to see a big dick.
Yeah.
Neither did I. It was just very obvious.
The whole cover is one big dick, no matter which way you turn the cover. It's one big dick.
True. This is true.
And by the way, props to Charlie Hebdo for doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely props.
Props to Caroline Forsyth for going on MSNBC and almost giving Ronan Farrow a diaper change, and then also going on Sky News and throwing it up there, and Sky News panicking and apologizing. She's like the best. I don't know if you guys saw the clips of her doing that, but she was just basically, Ronan Farrow's talking about the brave freedom of the press, and she goes, "You guys aren't free, watch," and she holds us up and says, "You're going to blur this," and he was like, no, and MSNBC blurred it, and that's to me like the greatest thing anybody can do right now. Like, oh, you want me on your show? Sure, I'll come on. And she keeps like the cover face down or hidden, and then she just throws it up, and she makes like the cameraman and the program producer just crap their pants. Oh, geez, and it's so awesome what she's doing. She's on Twitter. Yeah, she's on Twitter. I mean, her account's in French, but I recommend anybody listening to go follow her. You can, if you, and her name is last name is Fourest, just put that into search. Or I think she's like the last person I follow, so you can get her off my following list also. But yeah, really awesome. She's just kind of exposing these guys for what they are, and she's just doing it in the best way. She's not, pointing out examples of hypocrisy. She's just going on TV and going, here's the cover, and they're just, oh, can't do that, and they're it's really awesome. I hope she gets booked on everywhere. I think Tapper had her on, and I don't know if she had a cover, and someone can confirm that either listening or on Twitter. But I know I think Tapper interviewed her. She interviewed with them, so I don't know. She's kind of like she's kind of like another Pussy Riot in my opinion. Like she's just out there, just big microphone, big hypocritical microphone in people's faces. I love her.
Yeah, and as far as I know, the translate this works if you're accessing the Twitter via your browser. I'm not sure. I never really tested. I think it does when you're looking at an individual's full page and you're not just going tweet by tweet in a stream.
Twitter's on a browser?
It can be. It has a web interface. I know we rarely look at it, but
dear God, is that on the list? Rule number 72. Anyone who uses Twitter in a browser.
No,
I only
actually,
do that to edit my profile. Have a nice day.
No, but actually, believe it or not, if you're on, if you use TweetDeck, you're screwed.
Okay.
You're on the list like 5 times.
Okay. That explains everything.
Yep.
I'm waiting for the black helicopters. I haven't heard them yet. My neighbors should be amused. The question is, which one will shoot it down? I swear. This
is what you get. This is what you get when you listen to the Right War here on
Exactly.
FTR Radio. You either get Taylor talking about the fact that he thinks about Liz in bed and Jason Pye, or you get Liz talking about the fact that one of her neighbors will shoot down the black helicopters.
The irony
which
is
one?
It could very well.
Rules 12 and 32.
Yeah.
The irony is that at least one of the individuals that could possibly do that, and would possibly do that, wears a uniform and a badge.
Oh, well, see, there you go.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That's, I mean, you guys are just hitting these. That just happens to be Rule 64. Anyone with a badge and a gun.
That's not a member of NSA.
Exactly. But yeah, I always joke. I mean, people sit there and they talk about the swatting and all of that, and I'm like, well, number one, you'd have to first convince my local 911 that there's actually something bad happening at my house. And that's assuming that you could get the police department to actually believe it, even if they did get it through somebody on 911. That's not likely. And then if anybody actually tried to, show up on my doorstep, the aforementioned individual with the badge is probably the least armed individual surrounding my house at this moment. And he has, I think he was just bragging that he bought his 116th gun. So.
I've got a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah. So, yeah, and that's not to be confused with the gun shop owner that is theoretically on speed dial for a couple of the people that live near here. Oh, my.
That's rule number 66.
Yeah, if you have your gun shop owner on speed dial, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And stockpiling ammunition is in there, too, by the way. For reals.
Yeah, I'm on the list.
Mm-hmm. I'm surprised they didn't say that making your own ammunition. But then again, I guess they couldn't really track that as well as they'd like. They keep on trying, though. Anyway.
Well, we're all on the list, so we might as well just, when in Rome, get it all out. So.
Exactly. Well, actually, it should be a badge of honor.
Wait. Actually, Stephen, I have to take issue with something that you wrote in this actually really good piece at thewilderness.me, which is being posted in the FTR radio chat room right now. You said, near the end, If our collective media was Charlie Hebdo, Lois Lerner would be behind bars. Our media and our president is not Charlie. They are the WWE. Steven, why do you insult wrestling fans everywhere and the WWE by comparing them to the media and the president?
I'm just following the anti-terror manual, which if you turn to it, that's rule number 29. Anybody who's a fan of the WWE.
But actually, I'm not a fan of them anymore because they have screwed up too many times. But, you know.
Well, then my analogy was accurate, would it not be?
Yeah.
No, because they still have good wrestlers there.
We have a few good eggs.
Seth Ryan, Seth Rollins.
I was trying to come up with, and trust me, you're not the only one that took issue with this. I had a few people yelling at me about that, which I'm fine with. I loved it. And I was trying to think of like just the most modern day theatrical part of pop culture entertainment I could think of that isn't like our news media.
Yeah.
And so, you know,
WWE. Oh yeah.
It's kind of like, and I don't watch WWE. I was an old, like when I was growing up, I loved the wrestling, like, you know, Hogan slamming the Giants, like the greatest moment in American pop culture history. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I was just trying to come up like, well, here's our media who, you know, for the last 4.5 months has been telling us, you know, we're the last line of information here of what's going on. If we're not in Ferguson, if we're not storming the streets of Ferguson, Missouri, daring people to throw bottles and rocks at police officers or torching a Quickie Mart, then, you know, no one else is going to tell this story. So we were inundated and forced. You know, we had live streams and tweets and blogs and, you know, articles shoved down our throats about the chaos that is Ferguson, and, you know, cops standing down, protesters, and we had to know every single little detail about what was happening in Ferguson. If a police officer looked at a reporter wrong, you knew about it on Twitter, and so we were just bludgeoned to death with this for 3.5 months, since August, basically, when they needed this talking point. And then when it comes to this, when it comes to like actual putting them in danger, like you always remember like Chris Hayes was in Ferguson and, you know, he heard like a gunshot and he just runs. Like he just...
Oh, good God.
You know, he's sitting here...
Sir Robin ran away.
He's sitting there interviewing people and, oh, geez, what's that? And he runs, and it's just kind of, it's like, that's what I'm talking about. And then the excuse that we're given by some of the outlets was, well, we fear for our employees' safety. And it's like, you're the people who have been going after the NYPD for a month. You're the people who, you know, the New York Times revealed troop locations when Bush was president of Iraq, and the New York Times published the names and addresses of legal gun owners in New York. So I take issue with, it's fine if you're, you know, it's fine if you're a news outlet or a paper or a network and you're scared for your employees' safety. I can understand that. But then you don't get to sit there and criticize American soldiers. And people say, well, that's new. Now you're putting restriction on the First Amendment. No, I'm playing by their rules. And so basically I was trying to think of like the most absurd theatrical entertainment we have. And you have, when you look at our cable, most of our cable media, and then also on Twitter, reporters where Twitter basically made guys who write a column for Huffington Post or Washington Post, like pop media superstars. And that's what they are. They all have, each channel has their own cool different graphics. They yell into their, you know, when they're interviewing, they yell at the camera, they try to intimidate guests, and, you know, they have their entrance music, and they have some of them have flashy costumes, Al Sharpton, and they, you know, but when they get into the ring and they have to take a real punch, like possibly endangering their life for the very thing that they have dedicated their lives to, they fake the punch. And I'm not saying all wrestlers fake it, of course, but it's the best analogy I could think of. So, I mean, I know some people took issue with it. I regret nothing, but that's kind of the thought. That's the thought process behind it. It's all theatrical, and here we have something, and this goes back to what I said about Forsett was. She's basically holding up the thing right there on TV and showing, and they can't show this, and it's a cartoon when you really get down to it. So that's kind of the most fascinating thing, and that's kind of where, I take an angry turn in my piece, because I am angry over it. I am angry at, like, just the sheer hypocrisy. And, the media that's been pushing the Washington Redskins logo change for the last year or 2 years. You know what? And, I mean, every time we get something from, Huffington Post or Washington Post or Boston Globe or New York Times about here's the Washington Redskins football team, or Mashable is another one that's jumped on that bandwagon. All you need to do is go find a tweet or go find something where they were, standing by Charlie Hebdo, and you put the image of Muhammad right next to the Washington Redskins, and you say, here you go, guys, put this on the line. Because it's no different. It's literally no different. You are offended by graphic design is ultimately what you get down to.
Well, look at what they did to the frickin' South Park. Look what they did to South Park, where they wanted to show Muhammad, and Comedy Central censored them.
Yeah.
But
they were all right with Jesus.
Yeah, but it's okay to have Jesus.
But I say that quote in my piece in 2006. He said, Matt Stone's like, we can have Jesus curse, we can have him shoot people with guns, we can have him beat up Santa Claus, we can literally do anything we want with Jesus. But with Muhammad, we can't even show a picture. And they had to. I remember in one of their interviews where they were trying to clear it with Comedy Central Legal, and like, so we can show Muhammad? No. Can we just show like a random guy and say he's Muhammad? No. And it's like, so we can't just draw like a random white guy and say that's Muhammad? No. And so they said, can we put him in like a costume? No. I said, okay, can we put him in a bear suit? Yeah, you can do that. So that was the episode where it was like the Super Friends, where it's just this plush bear and they call it Muhammad. And they got threats over that. And I go into that in my piece, and that's what it is so, kind of head shaking with me with George Clooney. And he gets up on stage, and we're not going to shrink down from Charlie. And, we won't. We will walk and we will stand. And it's, George, your industry has been shrinking from radical Islam for the last 20 to 25 years. It's like, there are no like radical Islamic terrorists in movies. There are none. The last one was like True Lies. And James Cameron canceled his sequel because after 9/11, and he said, because I'm not going to make light of terrorism anymore. And then what happened? We got Team America, which obviously are Islamic puppets, for Christ's sake. And we were just told a month ago we can't see that movie in the movie theater because it's offensive. So everyone that was telling us to proudly go out and support the interview suddenly won't stand up for what the guys of Charlie Hebdo died for. I mean, it's enormous hypocrisy, and I mean, if there's any good that comes out of this, nothing's good. But that to me is what comes out of this. This is, the French would usually be the ones criticizing the people who did these illustrations, except this happened in France. This happened in a very culturally liberal society, in a very elitist society, and that, to me, that's a joke Charlie Hebdo would make. So, I mean, it's insane to me. Hollywood is the biggest, purveyor of doing this with the Avengers and Iron Man. I mean, they have Chinese government delegates on their sets to approve what they can and can't do in their scripts, or what they can film, or they do different cuts so they can open a film in China. It's insane. But here they are saying, we're brave and we're making art. No, you're not. You're making money. Which is fine. They can do that, but don't stand up there and pretend that somehow you're the gatekeepers of our born rights.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, when you brought up Ferguson, I couldn't help thinking. It reminded me, and I hate it when this happens because I don't want to keep on being reminded of this particular film, but it keeps on happening. Live from Baghdad, HBO production. They were depicting, of course, the birth of CNN.
Yeah, that's Michael Keaton, Woody Harrelson, right?
Michael Keaton and what's his name's girlfriend who wouldn't have a job if she didn't have him.
Every actress in Hollywood.
Give me a second.
Anyway.
Give me.
I know it's
Helena Bonham Carter. And
Carter.
And she is actually no longer going out with Tim Burton.
That's why she doesn't have any work.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because she's a really good actress.
But anyway.
Kooky, but
this was before she was doing completely kooky, because her character in this was just only moderately kooky. But anyway, they did a thing where they were showing up at the embassy. Well, they went and they did a thing. They went to the U.S. Embassy. The news people are there. They have the cameras. They've got the guy to go and talk. And then they see, when they pull up, they see all of these protesters. So they start filming them. And then as soon as Helena Bonham Carter makes the cut signal and they turn off the cameras, all the people that were standing there yelling and protesting let down all of the signs and walk away. And basically the people in the embassy go and say, oh, you have different groups here every day, and they're like labor groups and social groups from there, and they'll show up and protest for the benefit of the members of the press that would be coming to the U.S. Embassy. But as soon as the press leaves, they go. And I'm sitting here thinking, how much of that was Ferguson? I mean...
all of it?
Yeah. The press shows up, so therefore we have protests.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing that's...
Well, I still think... No, I will say this. I think that there were some legitimate protesters that were going on, but the protesters you saw were the ones who were just sitting out there holding signs, not rioting. The few little protesters that you saw there, I think that's what... Those were the ones who were actually protesting, not the ones who were freaking rioting.
But Ferguson turned into a photo op.
It
turned into, I'm going to go out and stand in front of these cops who are standing in a row, and I'm going to get on my knees and put my hands up, and I'm backlit so they could be in Life magazine. And that's what our culture is. We're just a self-obsessed selfie Instagram culture right now. So it just turned into a photo op, and you saw that. It's like, oh, these incredible photos, which they are. I'm not saying what happened shouldn't have been documented, but this was – Ferguson was not a – organic thing that happened. There was no race narrative in Ferguson. There was no evidence of a race narrative, and basically the only reason we got a race narrative is because the media wanted a race narrative. Well, these are poor black people, and this is a rich white cop, and there's another rich white cop, and that cop is white and rich, and that's how it developed. There was never any evidence of any racial profiling. Of when Wilson approached Brown, there was none of that. There was no evidence of, full stop.
Right.
So you got this thing borne out either because media was bored or the administration needed a talking point going into the election, because this is what happened with Trayvon Martin right before the 2012 election. Or after, I might be wrong on that. Someone can kill me if I'm wrong. I don't care. But they needed this talking point. They needed to rev people up. They needed to gin their base up, and that's what they used it for. So that's why saying, well, this white kid over in Utah was shot, that doesn't do any good.
Nope.
So, yeah. That is the most recent kind of events that I'm coming from with Charlie Hebdo, which is you have the brave media acting like they're in frickin' Beirut with cameras, thinking it's Ferguson, Missouri, and we have to show the American people this. We're the only, we're the last line of defense, and as if like getting escorted out of a McDonald's is the next Nelson Mandela fight. So, but then it comes down to something where like people in their profession were just at work. These are people just at work. And it's in their profession, and they attack journalists, which of course hits home with them. And all of a sudden, we're all Charlie. Well, no, you're not, because you're not willing to sacrifice what they did. And until you're willing to do that, you're not. So don't tell me you are. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna capitulate to that. So, and I said this in my piece: if you stand in a crowd with a sign, you're not Charlie. You're Charlie if you decide to stand alone on a street corner with a cartoon or an illustration. Then you're Charlie. And then if you take that illustration or cartoon into like the deepest no-go zones of Islamic radicalism in Paris or France, then you're really Charlie. So we're either going to be brave or we're just going to be corporate stooges who were signing our waiver form. So
I still can't figure out the censoring of it. I really can't. I can't figure out why they would censor them.
Well, because they have to. This is where we are as a society. We're in the 6-year outrage apologetic, protest culture that basically was spawned on January 20th, 2009.
Right.
So this internal debate about what to show, what not to show, that's all happening on the left. Everyone who's kind of where that line stops, everyone on this side's kind of like, show Muhammad, I don't care. You're offending Muslims. I don't care if you're offended. That's the answer to all of this. I don't care if you're offended. So, like AP and all of these kind of left news gatherings like AP and Reuters and Bloomberg and NBC, MSNBC, ABC, CBS actually did show the cover. Good on them. But even then, I go into that a little bit. These are the same companies that have internal debates about skin color and cis-normative hetero geriatric people of some northeastern island, whatever. So these are the people having these.
These are the same people that sat there and called the one suspect in the shooting at the grocery store over there
an African American.
Because they couldn't say black person, and I challenge you, and everybody at home can do this too, because you don't really think about it. But when you're watching your local news, and they go and put up the mugshot of an individual who happens to be black, how many times do they actually say it's a black person? Think about it.
But this is what kind of the whole thing with Charlie Hebdo exposed was. There's this internal wrestling of feelings and these proper terminology. There's nothing that's politically correct about Charlie Hebdo. And they were murdered. That's the thing. I mean, this is the most politically and religiously incorrect thing you have. I mean, example. And they were shot for it. So I don't see a lot of debate on the right about, what can we show, what can't we show, and all we do is we hold the example up of piss Christ or whatever as a hypocrisy, but you don't even need to do that to prove the hypocrisy. All you need to do is exactly what I said Coraline Forcé is doing. You go on TV and you hold it up and they blur it. And so, and David Burge had a great observation where one of the news organizations, I think it was New York Daily News, blurred out Muhammad on the cover while there was a Jewish character with like a big hook nose. So they blurred out the Muhammad character but not the stereotypical Jew character. And this all comes down to, well, that doesn't offend us. Well, I'm pretty sure it does offend Christians, and I'm pretty sure it probably does offend Jews.
Remember, once upon a Weinstein got pulled off of Fox, the Family Guy episode, because it was offensive to Jews and characterized them.
Maybe I don't watch Family Guy, but I'll take your word for it.
That was an original one before they got all preachy.
Oh, but yeah, and that's the point. Is I'm sure Christians are offended. I'm sure Jews are offended. But I think where we are in a society is they've kind of learned to take it, and because I think they believe their faith is stronger than that, and it's kind of like, well, this is how it's been forever, and I don't know if we'll ever get to a point to where, Muslims or radical Islam can take a cartoon, and that's what MSC, where the New York Times, there's Muslim families in Brooklyn that are going to read our paper, and they're going to see that. And, it's Ross Douthat's column that he wrote just last week is the best thing he's ever written. And he said, if you're saying something that offends a large enough group of people, it's probably something that needs to be said.
Right.
The part that I thought was really interesting was Chowdhury, whatever the guy's name is.
Yeah.
The cleric in London basically used his First Amendment right in USA Today to advocate for the First Amendment to not exist.
Right.
It's just, what
It's mind-numbing, but
but you know they do that on purpose though, and it's no different than when they wanted to put the mosque near Ground Zero, which was everyone was screaming mad about that. I thought it was great trolling, to be honest with you, because they're saying two things. I mean, you put a mosque at a victory site. For a Muslim holy place, that's a Muslim victory. So they're basically saying, yeah, we've knocked your buildings down and now we're going to build on top of them. But if you don't allow them to do that, how free of a society really are you? I mean, and that's what I mean. I don't agree. I don't agree with them either way. I'm saying the tactic is it was a brilliant tactic, and that's what Chaudhry's doing. Is he's using our media, he's using USA Today, who gives him that platform, to basically say, well, there's consequences for this, and hey, it's probably good those 12 people are dead. Don't draw any more cartoons, and this won't happen anymore. And in turn, people get upset and people get outraged, and and I was surprised at first. I was like, what the hell is USA Today doing? I was really mad. I was just kind of like, this is interesting. And then the sentiment came out on Twitter, which I kind of fell into, which was like, yeah, give the guy his platform there and let people see how crazy this guy is. My problem with that, however, is the USA Today's audience doesn't see it that way. They're like, oh yeah, this guy's making some interesting points, and oh hey look, the Broncos just fired their coach. That's USA Today's audience. So, and USA Today is supposed to be in a hologram form. It's 2015, so forget them.
No comment. Oh dear.
That was a reference. Was that a reference to? No, I'm not Red Dawn. I'm blanking on the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie now. Help me out here. It was just a remade with Colin. What's his name?
What like an 80s Arnold movie?
Yeah, the 80s Arnold movie.
Oh, you're thinking Total Recall. I was making Back to the Future.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. I got my 80s.
But anyway, a while ago, a philosophy professor, quite some time ago, went and put out an article that said, you are not entitled to your opinion. And basically, he was pointing out that if you can't defend what you are holding to be your belief, you can't just sit there and say, well, that's my opinion. Just to shut the whole discussion down. Now, I think we need to take it a step farther. You're not entitled to not be offended. That's it. I mean, that's the problem here. That's what it boils down to. Everybody's so worried about, oh my God, we're going to defend somebody, or we're going to offend somebody, so we better not say that. We better not show that. We better not do this. We better not do that. I mean, it's like the whole game that is going on of all things. And normally, initially I had been like, oh, maybe they could figure out a way around this. But no, I'm not. De Blasio is going rounds with Orthodox Jews now over a public health issue. They have infant boys that are getting herpes due to an ultra-Orthodox way of performing ritual circumcision, which involves the individual who is doing the circumcision sucking the blood from the site. Yeah, we'll stay away from the icky reason. But these babies are getting herpes, and it can kill them. And I'm thinking, yeah, religious rights are one thing, but this is a public health concern. Why are you even having a debate? Forbid it and be done with it. I'm sorry. I mean, they're talking about going and having consent forms and having the parents making informed consent. Who the hell in their right mind, regardless of their religious beliefs and everything else, would sit there and consent to even the slightest chance of killing their baby with a religious ritual? Seriously? Come on now.
Is there any money in it for me?
No.
Okay, well, I probably wouldn't consent then. I'm testing the limits of offense. Just,
Yeah, I know. I understand. But seriously, this whole paranoia about offending people. Give me a break. This has to stop somewhere. And
hopefully it stops in 2 years. That's the one thing I hold out hope is our culture has a weird way of correcting its course in a way. So we're always a country that mimics our leaders. We always have been. Culture's kind of directed by it. When you look at the 80s, you think of Reagan, you think of the Genesis video, Land of Confusion, the puppets, and our culture has a way of adapting the characteristics of who we elect. The 90s were kind of like just a freewheeling, hey, cool, man, we're just going to do what we want kind of time. And in the early 2000s, we were, kind of embroiled in a little bit of patriotism, obviously with dissent. If our country has a way of flipping back and forth. So we got 8 years of Reagan, 4 years of Bush. So it's basically 12 years of Reagan, and then we flipped over to 8 years of Clinton, and then we flipped over to 8 years of Bush. Now we're 8 years of Obama. So the hope that I have is basically the 2016 message should be, vote for us. We're going to let you wear whatever shirt you want without feminists screeching at you. We're going to try to give you back your doctor. Oh, and you know what? Yeah, we're going to let you hold up any cartoon you want. I think that's a pretty good message, and I think that if there's any hope that it swings back that way. And if it doesn't, we're screwed, because then we get 4 years of Grandma and the Party Boy, which the 90s were rife with political correctness. That's, to me, was my first memories of it. I was just like, what the hell? Nobody was more, politically correct in my lifetime than Bill Clinton. They basically just invented that whole terminology for me. Right. So that, to me, that's the hope, is that it'll swing violently back the other way. It'll just be like, we've had enough of this. We've had enough of people apologizing for their tweets, or we've had enough of people getting banned from speaking at colleges because the students don't want to hear them. We're tired of CEOs having to step down because of a political donation they made 20 years ago.
Or even 10 years ago.
Or 10 years ago, yeah.
They're trying to make Ted Cruz's arrest or citation for whatever the frickin' thing was, underage drinking or minor in possession. They're trying to make that a big deal. But
they're not going to, and Ted Cruz isn't going to apologize for that. I'm talking more in the sense of like Steve Martin having to apologize for a joke on Twitter. And you see like Patton Oswalt fights that regularly. Yeah. And I think that that's the only way. I think our culture has a way of self-correcting, where people just get completely just totally fed up with it, that they just say, you know what, I don't really care what Marco Rubio or Rand Paul's stance is on immigration. I'm going to vote for that guy because he's going to freaking leave me the hell alone. And that's it. As opposed to Hillary, who's going to, try to tweak Obamacare and put more control in your life. Election might just come down to something like that, certainly in our culture. And I think, like I said, we have a weird way, we always have, of just kind of self-correcting, turning the dial in the exact opposite direction where it was previously. And then, of course, we get tired of it and we go back. So after 8 years, then we'll get, one of the Castro Dreadnought twins as president or whatever. So I'm not one of these people where I give out hope. I just think it's important to stand up in the face of it until then, because then at least you can say, I told you so.
Yeah.
And what's the strange... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
We need a whole bunch of underground films done by arguably conservative-leaning libertarian types. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Doing the things that Hollywood shuts down.
Well, but it has to make money. That's all that Hollywood cares about.
YouTube is a wonderful thing. It can make money, too. Ask the people who get the millions of hits.
But, I agree to a certain extent. If there's a hope for that, then it is a more libertarian geared. It's a more freestyle lifestyle. It's a more free lifestyle, moving, ebb and flow. And if there's a hope, it's not that. It's not in kind of the conservative style movement. I joked with this on a podcast last week, was, we don't control Hollywood. We don't control anything. Conservatives and libertarians don't really control anything culturally. We just kind of sit on the sidelines. And that's what to me is kind of funny about watching the Black Lives Matter protests and people blocking traffic in New York and DC and Oakland. And it's kind of funny. It's like, you guys are tearing each other apart. Like, what am I supposed to do about that? Am I supposed to get out there and say, don't do that? No. And I live here. I live in one of those places. But,
well, I have a question. Do you remember what the first video was broadcast on MTV?
It was Video Killed the Radio Star.
Yeah. And it's sort of true. Not entirely. I mean, it didn't kill radio entirely. I'm going to argue that YouTube killed Hollywood. At some point. YouTube is going to kill Hollywood. It won't entirely die. It will still be relevant. Radio is still relevant. It has evolved. And video didn't stay the way it did back in the 80s. But, yeah, I'm going to argue that because I'm looking at what my own kids do. The 20-year-old and all of that.
Right.
Yeah, she goes to the movie theater with her friends sometimes. But it's always the cheap seats. The cheap theater. And what is she doing otherwise? She uses God knows how much data, thank God most of it's on Wi-Fi, streaming video from YouTube.
Right.
That's what she does.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's going to specifically be YouTube, but I mean, the web, and that's one of the things that was interesting about what happened with the interview, is it was released online while it was simultaneously released in some theaters, and they wanted to basically see how the receipts did on that. And it was like online just blew theaters away. Of course, it was also proportional to how many theaters it was playing in. It wasn't even playing in, I think, over 1,000. But I don't know if it'll kill it completely, but that doesn't even necessarily kill Hollywood. That you have to then track what people are seeing on YouTube. And companies will do that. They will start tracking, obviously, if Beyonce has 4 million hits, well, we're just going to keep putting Beyonce out there and gobble her up, and that's kind of why things like pop stars today, that they're not going to go away. Like things like Katy Perry and Lady Gaga 20 years ago, 10 years ago, they'd run their cycle and people get tired of them. Now they're here forever. Their Instagram's not going anywhere. Their Twitter's not going anywhere.
Right.
So we kind of have this stale part of culture.
Internet gives longevity, but it works not only for those pop stars, but also for all of the stupid little videos out there. So, and I'm starting to think that
you have to make the culture
people
popular.
Want their entertainment, and Hollywood keeps on thinking, oh, they want an hour and a half, 2 hour, bordering on 3 hour movies, and we've got collective ADHD. And I'm thinking, no, there are a lot of movie shorts that do a hell of a lot better than a lot of the first-run movies, because they're getting millions of hits on YouTube or Vimeo or wherever the heck they're hosted. It doesn't really matter. The point is streaming video on the internet. Who cares where it is or how they're getting it? It's just there, and that's what they're watching. And I'm thinking, well, that's like the Wild West. What I'm saying with the idea of counterculture, true freedom of speech, not censored entertainment. That's where it is. We need to be making videos that Charlie would approve of, so to speak. You know what I mean?
You're not going to get a big argument from me on that, of course. So,
well, we're looking at it and we're looking at it from the wrong perspective. I mean, Kirk Cameron and all of them, they're talking about trying to, and even Nick Searcy and Baldwin, etc., they're talking about trying to have a minor uprise in the existing entertainment industry, and I'm sitting here thinking, it's called the interwebs, baby, make your own.
Right.
Just saying.
Money does talk, Money does talk, though.
Money does talk, but let's think about that. What was it? The Blair Witch Project? Major low budget film, and made how much money? So, yeah, you don't necessarily have to be rolling in green to get the green. But hey, that's just me. And I'm just saying that the liberals don't necessarily own the culture. We're just not taking advantage of the tools that we have to buy our own peace.
Tom Hanks did go to community college.
Oh, whoop-de-doo. Well, anyway, we're about out of time, so thank you, Stephen Miller, for showing up. Of course, we can always find you at RedSteez on the Twitter and wilderness.me, right?
Yeah, and occasionally at Ricochet when John Gabriel gives me a few lashes for slacking.
Yeah, I have to get back there myself. I've been terrible, but yeah. So tomorrow night we will be back here, and we will have pie.
To my knowledge, we'll have pie.
Okay.
Wait a second? Why didn't we have pie tonight?
Oh no, references to Jason Pie, Freedom Works. So it's Freedom Works Thursday.
Yeah, Jason hasn't been baked enough yet, so that's why he'll be ready tomorrow. Not.
Yeah. Good night, folks.
Thanks.
Go Stars.